The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 a.m. just like it had every morning for the past 3 years. Lisa rolled over in her tiny bed, her whole body aching from yesterday's double shift. The studio apartment was so small that she could touch both walls if she stretched her arms wide, but rent was cheap, and cheap was all she could afford. She stumbled to the bathroom, avoiding the mirror. Dark circles under her eyes told the story she already knew by heart. Work, sleep, work again. That was her life now. The girl who once dreamed of playing at Lincoln Center was now just trying to make it. Through another day of serving rich people their expensive meals, the old piano sat in the corner like a sleeping giant, her grandmother's piano, the only thing left from her old life. Most days, Lisa just walked past it. The keys were getting dusty and some of them stuck when pressed, but she couldn't sell it. It was all she had left of the person she used to be. Getting dressed in her black uniform, Lisa caught a glimpse of her hands.
Oh, once.
These hands were her pride, smooth, strong fingers that could dance across piano keys like magic. Now they were rough from washing dishes and carrying heavy trays. Small cuts from broken glass, burns from hot plates, and calluses from gripping serving trays for hours. The bus ride to work took 45 minutes through the city. Lisa pressed her face against the window, watching the neighborhoods change. From rundown apartments to fancy houses with perfect lawns. She always wondered what it would be like to live in one of those houses, to wake up and not worry about money, to have time for things like music and dreams. Grandview Country Club sat on a hill like a castle, all white columns and perfectly cut grass. The parking lot was full of cars that cost more than Lisa made in 2 years. She walked through the staff entrance, punching her time card at exactly 7 a.m. Being late meant getting written up, and she couldn't afford to lose this job. The kitchen was already busy. Cooks shouting orders, servers running around with coffee pots, and the smell of expensive food filling the air. Lisa tied her apron and grabbed her order pad. Another day of smiling at people who looked right through her. Table 12 wants their eggs over easy, not over medium, called out Janet, the head server. She'd been working here for 15 years and had stories about every rich family in town. And watch out for the woman at table 6. She's already sent back her orange juice twice. Lisa nodded and got to work. The morning crowd was the usual bunch. Retired lawyers, doctors, wives, and business owners who came here to be seen. They talked about their vacations to Europe and their kids' private schools, while Lisa refilled their coffee cups. "Miss, this coffee is cold," said a woman in a fur coat, even though it was 70 degrees outside. "I'll get you a fresh cup right away." Lisa replied with her practiced smile. She'd learned to make her voice sound cheerful, even when she felt anything but cheerful inside. The country club members had their routines. Mr. Peterson always ordered the same breakfast and read his newspaper without looking up. Mrs. Williams liked her table by the window and would send back any food that wasn't perfect. They never asked Lisa her name or how she was doing. She was just part of the furniture to them. During her break, Lisa sat behind the kitchen where nobody could see her. She pulled out her phone and looked at the picture she'd saved from years ago. It was her at 18, sitting at a beautiful grand piano after winning a state competition. Her hair was done up fancy, and she wore a long black dress. She looked so confident, so sure that music would be her life. What happened to that girl? She whispered to herself. The answer was sitting in the hospital across town. Her mom, who'd been sick for 4 years now. The medical bills that kept coming no matter how many payments Lisa made. The choice between college and keeping her mother alive, it wasn't really a choice at all. Lisa had been accepted to 3 music schools, full scholarships to 2 of them. Her piano teacher cried when Lisa told her she couldn't go. "You have a gift," she'd said. "Gifts like yours don't come along often. But gifts didn't pay for chemotherapy. Dreams didn't cover hospital stays. And talent didn't mean anything when your family needed you. The afternoon shift was harder." Crowd, then the golf players coming in for drinks. By 3 o'clock, Lisa's feet felt like they were on fire. Her lower back ached from carrying heavy trays, and she'd already spilled soup on herself twice. "Could you smile a little more?" asked the manager, Mr. Davies. The members liked their servers to look happy. Lisa forced her smile wider even though she wanted to scream. Happy about what? It's working 70 hours a week for barely enough money to survive. It's being invisible to people who spent more on lunch than she made in a day. But she needed this job. The country club paid better than other restaurants because they served rich people who sometimes left good tips. Sometimes being the key word. Today, she'd served a table of 4 women who ran up a $200 bill and left her $12 as the sun started to set. Lisa finally got a chance to really look around the dining room. The chandeliers sparkled like diamonds. Fresh flowers sat on every table. And in the corner, near the big windows, stood a beautiful black piano. She'd walked past that piano hundreds of times, but never really looked at it. It was a Steinway, probably worth more than she'd make in 5 years. The wood was so shiny, she could see her reflection in it. For a moment, she imagined herself sitting at that bench, her fingers finding the keys, music filling the room. "Stop daydreaming and clear table 8, Janet called out. Snapping Lisa back to reality, the evening crowd was different. Younger people, couples on dates, families celebrating birthdays. They were usually nicer than the morning crowd, but Lisa was too tired to care much. Her second shift was ending, but she had to stay late to help set up for tomorrow's big charity event. Walking home at 10 p.m., Lisa felt every step in her bones. The bus was nearly empty except for other late shift workers heading home. She stared out the window at the city lights, thinking about her mom's doctor appointment next week. More tests, more bills, more reasons why music would have to wait. Back in her tiny apartment, Lisa microwaved leftover rice and sat at her small table. The piano stared at her from across the room. Some nights, usually when she was this tired, she could almost hear it calling to her. Her fingers would start moving on their own, playing invisible keys in the air. Tonight was one of those nights. Lisa walked over to the piano and lifted the cover. The keys were yellow with age and covered in dust. She pressed middle C, and the sound filled her small space. Rich, deep, beautiful. Even old and out of tune, it still sounded like home. She sat on the bench and let her fingers remember what they used to know. A simple melody her grandmother taught her when she was 7. Then something harder, a piece by Chopin that used to make her teacher smile. Her hands moved across the keys like they were greeting old friends. For 20 minutes, Lisa forgot about sore feet and rude customers. She forgot about medical bills and impossible dreams. There was only music flowing. Through her fingers like water, this was who she really was. Underneath the uniform and the fake smiles, when she finally stopped playing, the apartment felt too quiet. Lisa looked at her hands again, seeing past the cuts and calluses to the musicians still hiding underneath. Tomorrow would bring another double shift, more invisible moments, more dreams pushed aside, but tonight, for just a few minutes, she remembered what it felt like to be alive. Lisa arrived at work 3 hours early. The annual charity gala was tonight, and the entire staff had been called in to prepare. The country club looked different already. Workers were hanging fancy lights and setting up tables with white cloth and gold chairs. Fresh flowers were everywhere, and the smell of expensive food drifted from the kitchen. "This is our biggest event of the year," Mr. Davies told all the servers during the morning meeting. "These people donate millions of dollars tonight. Everything has to be perfect. No mistakes, no accidents, and definitely no complaints." Lisa nodded along with everyone else, but her stomach was already in knots. Big events meant demanding guests, longer hours, and way more pressure. She'd worked 3 charity galas before, and each one left her completely exhausted. The guest list was incredible. The mayor was coming, along with several city council members, famous business owners, celebrities, and people Lisa had only seen on the news. The kitchen staff was nervous. The managers were running around checking everything twice, and even the maintenance crew was dressed nicer than usual. "The entertainment tonight is supposed to be amazing," whispered Janet while they folded napkins. "They hired some famous piano player from New York. Costs more than I make in 6 months, just to have him play for 2 hours." Lisa's ears perked up at the mention of piano music. She hadn't heard live classical music in years. Maybe tonight wouldn't be completely awful if she could at least listen to real music while she worked by 5 o'clock. The transformation was complete. The dining room looked like something from a movie. Crystal glasses caught the light from the chandeliers. Tables were set with china that probably cost more than Lisa's rent. And in the center of it all, the beautiful black piano had been moved and polished until it gleamed. The guests started arriving at 6. Lisa watched through the kitchen window as expensive cars pulled up. Women in designer dresses and men in perfect suits stepped out like they owned the world. Their jewelry sparkled under the lights, and they all had that confident way of walking that only came with having lots of money. Remember, smile and stay invisible. Mr. Davies reminded the staff one last time. They're here to see each other, not us. Lisa straightened her uniform and picked up her first tray of champagne glasses. The dining room was filling up fast, and the noise level was rising. Rich people talked loud when they were trying to impress each other. She recognized some faces from her regular morning shifts, but most of these guests were new to her. They stood in small groups, talking about business deals and vacation plans. One woman was bragging about her son getting into Harvard. Another man was complaining about his taxes being too high. "Excuse me, could you get me a different glass?" asked a woman with perfect blonde hair. "This one has a spot on it." Lisa looked at the glass. It was perfectly clean, but she smiled and said, "Of course, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh one right away." This was how it always went. Nothing was ever good enough for some people. Around 7:30, Lisa noticed people looking toward the entrance with excitement. A tall man in an expensive suit had just walked in, and everyone seemed to know who he was. He moved through the crowd like he owned not just the room but the whole building. "That's William Harper," Janet whispered as they passed each other with trays. "The tech millionaire. His company makes those apps everyone uses. They say he's worth like $500 million. Lisa glanced over at him again. He looked younger than she expected, maybe 45, with graying hair and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. People kept approaching him, shaking his hand and trying to get his attention. But he looked almost bored by it all. The evening was going smoothly until 8 o'clock. When everything went wrong, Mr. Davies came rushing into the kitchen looking panicked. "The pianist isn't coming," he announced to everyone. "His flight got canceled because of weather. We have 200 guests expecting live music and no one to play." The kitchen went quiet. Everyone knew how important tonight was. The charity raised money for the children's hospital, and these rich people expected everything to be perfect for their big donations. "What are we going to do?" asked the head chef. "I don't know," Mr. Davies said, running his hands through his hair. "I've called every musician in the city. Either they're already booked, or they want more money than we can pay on short notice." Lisa was refilling water glasses near the kitchen door when she heard all this. Her heart started beating faster. There was a piano sitting right there in the dining room, silent and waiting. She knew she could play it. She'd been playing piano for 20 years and she was good. Really good, but the thought of playing in front of all those people made her feel sick. These weren't her grandmother's friends at a church social. These were the richest, most important people in the city. What if she messed up? What if they laughed at her? What if she got fired? She tried to push the thought away and focus on her work, but it kept coming back. The piano was right there. She walked past it dozens of times, carrying trays and refilling glasses. Each time, she imagined herself sitting at the bench, her fingers on those beautiful keys. At 8:30, Mr. Davies made an announcement to the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid our pianist had to cancel due to travel issues. We're working on finding a replacement, but please enjoy your dinner in the meantime." Lisa could see the disappointment on people's faces. Some were whispering to each other, and a few looked annoyed. This was supposed to be a special night, and now something was missing. She was clearing plates from a table near the piano when she heard two women talking. "This is embarrassing," one said. "How do you not have backup plans for something like this?" "I specifically came tonight because I wanted to hear classical music," the other replied. "Now we're just sitting here like it's any other dinner." Lisa's hands were shaking as she stacked the plates. She knew she could fix this. She could give these people the music they wanted. But she was just a waitress. Nobody would listen to her, and nobody would trust her with something this important. That's when she heard William Harper's voice behind her. "This is quite a problem," he was saying to Mr. Davies. "These people donated a lot of money expecting a full experience. Some of them might ask for refunds." "I know, sir," Mr. Davies replied nervously. "I'm doing everything I can to find someone." "What about recorded music?" Harper suggested. "It's not the same," Davies said. "Oh, these guests want live performance. It's what we promised them." Wow. Lisa turned around without thinking. Both men were standing right next to her, and Harper was looking directly at the piano with a frustrated expression. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Both men looked at her like they'd forgotten she was there. "I'm sorry for interrupting," Lisa continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I couldn't help overhearing about the piano situation." Mr. Davies looked embarrassed. "Lisa, please, we're trying to handle this." But Harper held up his hand. "Let her talk. What is it?" Lisa's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "I can play piano," she said simply. The silence that followed felt like forever. Mr. Davies looked shocked, and Harper raised his eyebrows. "You play piano?" Harper asked. "Yes, sir. Been playing for 20 years. I know classical music, jazz, popular songs. Whatever you need." Mr. Davies shook his head. "Lisa, this isn't the time for jokes. These are very important people." "Not joking," Lisa said, finding her voice getting stronger. "I can do this. I know I can." Harper studied her face carefully. "What kind of training do you have?" "I had private lessons for 12 years. I won state competitions in high school. I was accepted to music school, but she trailed off. I couldn't go." "Why should we trust a waitress with the most important event of the year?" Mr. Davies asked, clearly stressed. Before Lisa could answer, Harper spoke up. "Because we don't have any other choice." He looked at Lisa again. "Are you sure you can handle playing for 200 people?" Lisa thought about her tiny apartment, her sick mother, and all the dreams she'd given up. She thought about the piano, sitting silent in the corner of her room and all the music trapped inside her. "Yes," she said firmly. "I can do this." Harper nodded slowly. "Then let's see what you've got." Lisa's legs felt like jelly as she walked toward the piano. Every step seemed to take forever. The dining room had gotten quieter, and she could feel eyes watching her. 200 of the city's most important people were about to see a waitress sit down at their fancy piano. "What is she doing?" she heard someone whisper. "Is that one of the servers?" another voice asked. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to clench them into fists. This was crazy. What was she thinking? These people expected a professional musician. From New York, not a girl who served them coffee every morning, William Harper walked beside her. His presence somehow making everything feel more real and more terrifying at the same time. "Take your time," he said quietly. "Just breathe." The piano bench felt different than the old one in her apartment. This one was padded and adjusted to the perfect height. The piano itself was magnificent up close. The keys were ivory white and perfect black, not a fingerprint or scratch anywhere. This instrument probably cost more than most people's houses. Lisa sat down and placed her hands on her lap. The room had gone completely silent now. She could hear the air conditioning humming and someone clearing their throat at a table across the room. Her heart was beating so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. She looked out at the sea of faces staring back at her. Some looked curious. Others seemed annoyed. A few people were checking their phones like they had better things to do. At one table, she saw the woman who always sent back her orange juice, looking at Lisa like she'd lost her mind. "Maybe we should find someone else," Mr. Davies whispered nervously from behind her. But Harper held up his hand. "Give her a chance." Lisa closed her eyes and tried to remember why she was doing this. Not for these rich people who saw her as invisible. Not even for the job she might lose if this went wrong. She was doing this for the girl she used to be, the one who lived for music, the one who believed she could do anything when she sat at a piano. Her fingers found the keys, and she started with something soft and gentle. Claire de Lune by Debussy. It was a piece her grandmother had loved, one that always made Lisa feel calm. The first notes drifted across the room like whispers. She kept her eyes closed and let the music flow through her. This piano was incredible. Every note was clear and rich, responding to the slightest touch. It was like driving a sports car after years of riding the bus. Her fingers remembered things they hadn't done in years, finding harmonies and rhythms that had been sleeping inside her. The room stayed quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Not uncomfortable silence, but the kind of stillness that happens when people are really listening. Lisa could feel it, the way an audience changes when music touches them. She moved into the second part of the piece, her left hand carrying the deep, rolling melody, while her right hand danced above it. This was what she'd missed most about playing piano, the feeling of being completely connected to something beautiful. Her rough, scarred hands moved across the keys like they belonged there. When the piece ended, it was a moment of complete silence. Then someone started clapping, slow at first, then others joined in. Lisa opened her eyes and saw faces that looked different now. Instead of annoyance or boredom, she saw surprise and interest. "That was lovely," said a woman at the front table. "What else do you know?" Lisa felt a small spark of confidence. "What would you like to hear?" "Something with more energy," called out a man from the back. "Something that makes you want to move." Lisa smiled for the first time all evening. She knew exactly what to play. Her fingers found the opening notes of Rhapsody in Blue by Gershwin. It started slow and mysterious, but she knew where it was going. His piece had everything: jazz, classical, energy, and soul. As the music built, Lisa felt herself disappearing into it. This wasn't the scared waitress anymore. This was the musician she'd always been, finally set free. Her whole body moved with the rhythm. Her hands flew across the keys, hitting complex chords and running scales that most people couldn't even imagine playing. The room came alive. People stopped eating and turned their chairs to face the piano. Some were nodding their heads to the beat. Others were leaning forward, completely absorbed in what they were hearing. Even the staff had stopped working and gathered at the edges of the room to listen. Lisa caught sight of William Harper out of the corner of her eye. He was standing with his arms crossed, but his expression had completely changed. The distant look was gone. He was watching her with the kind of attention that made her feel like the only person in the room. She moved through the piece like a dancer, her body swaying with the music. When the rhythm got fast and jazzy, her fingers kept perfect time. When it got soft and romantic, she played with such feeling that some people in the audience looked like they might cry. This was why she'd fallen in love with piano in the first place. It wasn't just about playing the right notes. It was about telling a story without words, making people feel things they didn't even know they could feel. The piece built to its famous ending, with crashing chords and a melody that soared above everything else. Lisa put everything she had into those final measures. Every frustration from the past 3 years, every dream she'd given up. Every night she'd walk past her piano without playing, it all poured out through her fingers. When the last note faded away, the room exploded. Everyone was on their feet, clapping and cheering like they'd just seen a concert at Carnegie Hall. Some people were whistling. Others were wiping tears from their eyes. "Bravo!" someone shouted from the back of the room. "Incredible!" called out another voice. Lisa sat at the piano, breathing hard and trying to process what had just happened. Important people, doctors, lawyers, business owners, politicians, and they were applauding her. Not politely, but with real enthusiasm. A woman in an expensive dress came up to the piano. "My dear, that was absolutely beautiful. I haven't heard playing like that in years. Where did you study?" Before Lisa could answer, another person approached. "Are you available for private parties? I'd love to hire you for my daughter's wedding." Soon there was a small crowd around the piano, all asking questions and offering compliments. Lisa felt overwhelmed, but in the best possible way. These people who usually looked right through her were now treating her like she mattered. "I think we need to let her breathe," came William Harper's voice through the crowd. People stepped back respectfully as he approached the piano. "That was extraordinary," he said, looking directly at Lisa. "Truly extraordinary." "Thank you." Lisa managed to say, still not quite believing this was real. "I have some questions for you," Harper continued. "But first, I think these people would like to hear more music. Are you up for it?" Lisa looked around the room at all the expectant faces. A few hours ago, these same people had barely noticed her existence. Now, they were waiting to hear what she would play next. She placed her hands back on the keys and smiled. "What would you like to hear?" For the next hour, Lisa played everything from classical masterpieces to popular songs that had people singing. Along, she played jazz standards that made people want to dance, and romantic ballads that had couples holding hands. She even took requests, somehow knowing pieces she hadn't played in years. With each song, she felt more like herself. Not the invisible waitress, but the musician she'd always been inside. Her confidence grew with every note, and the audience responded to it. They weren't just listening anymore. They were part of the experience. When she finally took a break, the applause went on for several minutes. People came up to shake her hand and tell her how much they'd enjoyed the music. Some slipped her business cards asking if she gave lessons or played at events. As the crowd slowly returned to their tables, William Harper remained by the piano. He looked at Lisa with an expression she couldn't quite read. "We need to talk," he said simply. Lisa's hands were still trembling as she followed William Harper to a quiet corner of the dining room. The other guests had returned to their conversations and dinner, but she could still feel people glancing her way. Some smiled and nodded when she caught their eye. It was the strangest feeling, being seen by people who had looked right through her for 3 years. "Please sit down," Harper said, gesturing to a chair at a small table away from the crowd. His voice was different now, gentler than the business tone she'd heard him use with other people all evening. Lisa sat down carefully, suddenly aware that she was still wearing her waitress uniform. Her black pants and white shirt looked so plain next to Harper's expensive suit. She felt like she was in trouble, even though everyone had been clapping for her just minutes ago. "First, let me say that what you just did was remarkable," Harper began. "I've heard professional musicians who couldn't play with half the skill or emotion you showed tonight." "Thank you," Lisa said quietly, not sure where this conversation was going. Harper leaned forward slightly. "But I'm curious about something. How does someone with your obvious talent end up working as a waitress? Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with any honest work. But you clearly have abilities that could take you much further." Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. This was the question she'd been dreading. How could she explain her life to someone who probably never had to worry about money? Someone who could buy whatever he wanted whenever he wanted it. "It's complicated," she said, looking down at her hands. "I have time," Harper replied, "and I'm genuinely interested." There was something in his tone that made Lisa look up. He wasn't asking out of politeness or curiosity. He really wanted to know. Maybe it was the way he'd defended her when Mr. Davies doubted her, or maybe it was just that she was tired of carrying the weight of her story alone. "I was supposed to go to music school," she began slowly. I had scholarships to 3 different places. My piano teacher said I could go anywhere I wanted. Maybe even become a professional concert pianist someday." Harper nodded, waiting for her to continue. "But then my mom got sick." Lisa's voice got quieter. "Cancer. The treatments were expensive, and our insurance didn't cover everything. Someone had to work to pay the bills, and I was the only one who could." "What about your father?" Harper asked gently. "He left when I was 12, Lisa said matter-of-factly. "Just packed up one day and never came back. So it's just been me and my mom since then." Harper's expression softened. That must have been incredibly difficult. The hardest part wasn't giving up school, Lisa continued, the words coming easier now. It was watching my dreams slip away, bit by bit. At first, I thought maybe I could work for a year, save some money, and then go to college. But the bills kept coming. Mom needed more treatments, then she needed special care, and pretty soon a year became 2 years, then 3. She paused, surprised at how good it felt to finally tell someone the whole truth. "I kept my piano, though. My grandmother left it to me, and I couldn't bear to sell it. Some nights when I'm too tired to think straight, I play a little. The only time I feel like myself anymore." Harper was quiet for a long moment, just looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. Finally, he spoke. "How is your mother now?" "Better," Lisa said, and for the first time in the conversation, she smiled a little. "The doctors say she's in remission, but we're still paying off the medical bills, and she needs regular checkups. I can't really think about anything else until all that's taken care of." "I understand," Harper said. "Family comes first." "I respect that more than you know." Lisa wondered what he meant by that. But before she could ask, he continued. "Can I tell you something about myself?" he asked. Lisa nodded, curious. "I grew up poor," Harper said simply. "Not just middle-class struggling, but really poor. My dad worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. My mom cleaned houses during the day and worked at a factory at night. I wore the same pair of shoes for 2 years because we couldn't afford new ones." Lisa stared at him in surprise. This man in his expensive suit, surrounded by luxury, had grown up poor? "I was lucky," Harper continued. "I was good with computers back when most people didn't know what they were. Got a scholarship to college, worked part-time jobs to help my family, and eventually started my own company. But I never forgot what it felt like to have dreams and no way to reach them." He paused and looked directly at Lisa. "That's why I started my foundation. To help people like you, people with incredible talent, who just need someone to believe in them and give them a chance." Lisa's heart started beating faster. "Your foundation?" "The Harper Foundation for Arts and Education." He explained, "We provide scholarships, living expenses, and support for talented individuals who want to pursue careers in the arts. We've helped hundreds of musicians, artists, writers, and performers over the past 10 years. Lisa felt like she couldn't breathe. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying I'd like to offer you a full scholarship to any music school you choose," Harper said. "Plus living expenses, money for books and supplies, and enough to cover your mother's medical bills and ongoing care." The words hit Lisa like a physical blow. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. "I don't understand," she finally managed to say. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because talent like yours is rare," Harper said. "And because I believe everyone deserves a chance to follow their dreams, not just people who are born into families that can afford it." Lisa felt tears starting to form in her eyes. "But you don't even know me. You heard me play for 1 hour? How do you know I won't just waste your money?" Harper smiled. "You want to know what convinced me? It wasn't just your technical skill, though that was impressive. It was the way you played. You put your whole heart into every note you played. Like music was the most important thing in the world to you. That's not something you can fake or teach. That comes from inside." "I don't know what to say," Lisa whispered. "Say you'll think about it," Harper replied. "I know this is overwhelming. Take some time to process it. Talk to your mother. Look at some schools. When you're ready, call me." He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "My personal number is on the back." Lisa took the card with shaking hands. It felt heavier than a piece of paper should feel, like it was made of gold instead of cardboard. "There's one condition," Harper added, and Lisa's heart sank. Of course there was a catch. "Nothing in life was ever free." "What is it?" Nervously. "When you make it big, and you will, you have to promise to help someone else the way I'm helping you. Pass it forward. That's how we change the world, one person at a time." Lisa looked at him through her tears. "You really think I could make it big?" "I think you could do anything you set your mind to," Harper said firmly. Tonight, you walked into a room full of strangers and made them forget everything except your music. That's not just talent, that's magic. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Lisa tried to return to her waitressing duties, but her mind was spinning. Other staff members kept congratulating her, and guests continued to approach her with compliments and questions. Mr. Davies, who had been so worried about her playing,
Al looked at her with something like,
"I can't believe you've been working here for 3 years and we never knew," he said during a quiet moment. "You're going to be famous someday, aren't you?" As the night wound down and guests began to leave, many stopped by to thank Lisa personally. Some left tips that were bigger than her usual daily wage. Others pressed business cards into her hands, asking her to call them about playing at their events. But through it all, Lisa kept thinking about William Harper's offer. Could it really be true? Could she actually go back to school and study music? Could she become the pianist she dreamed of being? When the last guest finally left and the cleanup was finished, Lisa sat in her car in the parking lot staring at Harper's business card. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother asking how work had gone. Lisa started to type back, "Fine, just another long night," but stopped. Tonight hadn't been fine. Tonight had been extraordinary. Tonight had changed everything. Instead, she typed, "Mom, I have something amazing to tell you. I'm coming home now." As she drove through the city toward her small apartment, Lisa could hardly believe that just this morning she'd been the invisible waitress who no one noticed. Now she had a chance to become someone completely different, someone who mattered. The question was, did she have the courage to take it? Lisa's hands were shaking as she unlocked the door to her tiny apartment. The familiar smell of her grandmother's old piano polish filled the air, but tonight everything felt different. The business card in her pocket seemed to glow like it was radioactive. Her mother was sitting in her favorite chair reading a book under the dim lamp. She looked up when Lisa walked in, and her face immediately showed concern. "Honey, you look like you've seen a ghost," her mother said, marking her place in the book. "What happened at work tonight?" Lisa sat down on the small couch across from her mother and took a deep breath. Where could she even begin? How do you tell someone that your entire life might be about to change? "Mom, something incredible happened. Tonight, she started pulling out Harper's business card. I need to tell you everything." For the next hour, Lisa told her mother the whole story. About the missing pianist, about volunteering to play, about the performance that made 200 rich people stop and listen. Her mother's eyes got wider with each detail. "You played piano? In front of all those people?" her mother asked, gripping the arms of her chair. "Not just played, Mom. I really played. It's like I used to before." Lisa's voice trailed off. "Before you gave everything up for me," her mother finished quietly. They sat in silence for a moment. This was the conversation they'd never really had, the elephant in the room for the past 3 years. Lisa had sacrificed her dreams to take care of her mother, and they both knew it. "Tell me about this man who wants to help you," her mother said. Finally, Lisa explained about William Harper, his foundation, and the scholarship offer. With each word, her mother's expression changed from surprise to something that looked almost like hope. "He wants to pay for everything," her mother asked. "School, living expenses, even my medical bills?" "That's what he said." I can hardly believe it myself. Her mother was quiet for a long time, just looking at Lisa with tears in her eyes. "You know what this means, don't you? It means I could finally go to music school," Lisa said. "But Mom, I can't just leave you. What if you get sick again? What if you need me?" Lisa Marie Thompson, her mother said, using her full name like she did when Lisa was little. "Do you think I've spent the last 3 years watching you sacrifice your dreams so you could end up stuck in this tiny apartment forever? But the doctors said you need regular checkups, and the bills will be taken care of if you accept this scholarship," her mother interrupted. "Honey, this is the answer to prayers I didn't even know I was praying." Lisa felt tears starting to form. "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel like I'm abandoning you." Her mother got up from her chair and sat next to Lisa on the couch, taking her hands. "Let me tell you something about being a mother. The greatest joy in my life wasn't surviving cancer. It was watching you grow into an amazing young woman. But my greatest regret has been watching you give up your dreams for me." "I chose to do that," Lisa protested. "I know you did. And that choice showed me what kind of person you are. You have a chance to choose again. This time, choose yourself." Lisa looked around their small apartment. The piano in the corner that had been silent for so long. The stack of medical bills on the kitchen table. A tiny bedroom they'd shared. When her mother was too sick to be alone, "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of course you are," her mother said. "Big changes are scary. But you know what's scarier? It's looking back in 10 years and wondering what might have been." That night, Lisa barely slept. She kept thinking about Harper's offer, about her mother's words, about the feeling of playing piano in front of all those people. Around 3 in the morning, she got up and sat at her grandmother's old piano. She played softly, trying not to wake the neighbors. The keys felt different under her fingers now, like they were full of possibility instead of just memories. 4. The first time in years, when she played, she wasn't thinking about the past. She was thinking about the future. The next morning, Lisa called the number on Harper's business card. Her hands were shaking as she dialed. William Harper, came his voice on the other end. Mr. Harper, this is Lisa from last night. The waitress who played piano. Lisa, I was hoping you'd call. Have you had time to think about our conversation?
Yes.
Sir? And I'd like to accept your offer, if it's still available. There was a pause. Then Harper's voice came back warm and pleased. It's absolutely still available. In fact, I've already reached out to several music schools on your behalf. When can we meet to discuss the details? 2 weeks later, Lisa found herself sitting in the admissions office at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. The woman across from her was reviewing her application with a smile. Your audition video was extraordinary, the admissions counselor said. And Mr. Harper's foundation has certainly spoken highly of you. We'd be honored to have you join our program this fall. Lisa could hardly believe the words. She was going to music school. She was really going to do this. The next few months passed. In a whirlwind, Lisa gave her notice at the country club, though Mr. Davies asked her to play piano one more time before she left. This time the entire staff gathered to listen. And there wasn't a dry eye in the room when she finished. Her mother's medical bills were paid in full, and she was set up with the best oncologist in the city for her ongoing care. The Harper Foundation even arranged for a home health aide to check on her twice a week. You don't have to worry about me anymore, her mother told Lisa as they packed her few belongings for the move to Boston. You just focus on becoming the musician I always knew you could be. On her last day in the apartment, Lisa sat at her grandmother's piano one final time. Tomorrow, this piano would be moved to her new dorm room in Boston. Tomorrow, she would start a completely new life. She played the same piece she'd started, with that night at the country club, Claire de Lune. But this time, it didn't sound sad or nostalgic. It sounded like hope. A year later, Lisa stood on the stage at Symphony Hall, wearing a beautiful black dress and looking out at an audience of hundreds. Her mother sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Next to her sat William Harper, who had become not just her benefactor, but her mentor and friend. This was her junior recital, but it felt like so much more. It was proof that dreams don't have to die even when life gets hard. It was proof that sometimes, when you least expect it, someone believes in you enough to change everything. As Lisa placed her hands on the keys of the concert grand piano, she thought about that scared waitress who had volunteered to play music. For a room full of strangers, that girl had been brave for just one moment. That moment had changed everything. The first notes filled the hall, rich and clear and full of emotion. In the audience, people leaned forward to listen. Lisa wasn't playing for them anymore. She was playing for herself, for her mother. For her grandmother, who had first taught her to love music, she was playing for every person who had ever given up their dreams and wondered if it was too late to get them back. When the last note faded away, the audience erupted in applause. Lisa stood and bowed, tears streaming down her face. In the front row, her mother was crying too, but they were tears of joy. After the concert, as people came up to congratulate her, Lisa felt Harper's hand on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. "Thank you," Lisa replied, "for everything, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." "Actually," Harper said with a smile, "I have something to tell you. Remember the condition I mentioned? About helping someone else?" Lisa nodded. "I just got a call from a young man in Detroit. He's a violinist, works nights at a gas station to support his family. Someone sent me a video of him playing in a subway station." Harper pulled out his phone and showed Lisa the video. "He might be the next person we help. Are you interested in being part of that conversation?" Lisa watched the video of the young man playing beautiful music in the underground station. People walking by without stopping, just like they used to walk past her. She thought about how it felt to be invisible, to have dreams that seemed impossible. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I'm very interested." As they walked out of the concert hall into the warm evening air, Lisa realized that her story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. And the best part was, she was going to help write the next chapter for someone else. The scared waitress was gone. In her place stood a confident young musician who understood that talent without opportunity means nothing, but opportunity without courage means even less. Sometimes all it takes is one person who believes in you, and one moment when you're brave enough to try. Everything else is just music waiting to be played.